Hey everybody, Icy Cat here. A new test server session has gone live today. While we've got some expected things that are being worked on, like the changes for the friendly fire system, we also have our first look at the entire Lion rework overhaul. Let's go over all the details of everything they're working on and changing. This new developer blog went live today, and I will make sure that the link for this is down below in the video player. It says the test server update goes live today, March 20th. So right away, we start with taking a look at all the things they've done to Lion to make him a more viable operator now. So they've reduced the ability warning from 3 seconds down to 1.5. So that warning timer to stop moving is going to be a lot faster than it used to be. They've also reduced the scanning duration from 4 seconds to 2 seconds. So while the scan will start more quickly, it's also not going to last as long. They've replaced the scan outline by a red ping debuff. So that red outline is completely gone, and now it is going to be replaced by something that looks kind of like the alibi ping on all of the targets. Again, only if they're moving. To offset that, they've increased the number of times that Lion can scan from 2 back up to 3. They've also reduced the ability cooldown from 27 seconds down to 15 seconds. They've also now given Vigil the ability to be immune from Lion's scan when he's using his gadget. They said they've considered the overall duration of Lion's ability by reducing its 2 phases, the warning and the scanning. Now, instead of a total of 7 seconds, Lion's ability will only last 3.5, significantly reducing the exposure time and, therefore, the frustration cause. On the other hand, by changing the scan outline for a ping debuff, which works in a similar fashion as Alibi's detection, we're also reducing the usefulness of the enemy detection. More specifically, it consists in pinging the position of the detected player up to 3 times with 1 second between pings. With this change, moving during a scan is now more of a viable option, giving defenders a means of successfully counterplaying Lion's detections. To balance things, they've increased the number of uses to 3 and also reduced the ability cooldown. Next, we move to Capitao. So they are reducing the damage per tick from 19 down to 12, and we knew that on the last test server they were testing that out already. Also, the size of the area of effect has been increased. Again, that was in the testing before. However, what has changed is the area takes 2 seconds to reach its maximum size. Additionally, the arrow is affected by gravity after 10 meters. The reason for this is that they're acting on feedback collected from the previous test server with Capitao's rework. With this feedback in mind, they've adjusted the amount of time it takes for the area of effect to spread, allowing players to relocate prior to taking damage. After 10 meters, the trajectory of the arrow will begin to drop. They wanted to increase the amount of skill required to place his bolts, but also reduce the effectiveness of certain exploits that allowed attackers to spawn kill defenders. They are also working on the friendly fire system, and we knew that from the video that I did yesterday. They say that they're planning to activate reverse friendly fire on the test server. This is the latest feature they have on working on their efforts to address toxicity. The goal of this system is to contain the impact of players abusing the friendly fire mechanic while maintaining a degree of flexibility for accidents. We will collect data and feedback from both ranked and casual playlists on the test server and iterate it before releasing it live. Another thing they wanted to address under bug fixes is that they're aware that hacked drones will sometimes lose signal on various maps, and these need to be fixed on an individual basis. So they're saying that they're aware of the issue and they're dealing with those as they can find them. However, they have not fixed every location of them as of this update. So these are some really interesting changes. First, let's start with the Capitao one. We knew that his damage was changing, as well as increasing the size of the area of effect. The other 2 changes were based on feedback, but I'm not real sure how I feel about them. Taking 2 seconds to reach its maximum size is something that's going to get in the way a little bit of some of his utility. For instance, if you had a Clash there, he's really effective at countering Clash. But now if Clash has a full 2 seconds to get out of that spread before it reaches its maximum size, that's going to really reduce the utility that it has in that kind of a situation. Also, the part of it being affected by gravity after 10 meters is interesting because they said that certain exploits allowed attackers to spawn kill defenders. I'm not sure what those exploits were. I'm not aware of any situations where you could do that. I mean, the defenders are the ones that can spawn kill attackers, but the defenders start inside of a building, so I don't know how the attackers could spawn kill them. I'm not sure what exploit this is referring to, but apparently it was prevalent enough that they felt the need to change it. As far as Lion goes, this is really interesting. They're actually making it so that he can use his gadget more often and with less warning. But because that pin down effect of not moving only lasts for 2 seconds and that's so quick, it sort of offsets that. I'm also really loving the fact that Vigil is now a viable counter to that. And a lot of people will argue that his device is an echolocation thing, and so his drone jamming device shouldn't affect it because that affects cameras in the drones and that's visual. But it's one of those things where game balance needs to give way to logic a little bit. For instance, when Caveira can have the ability to silent step out of Jackal's foot tracking ability, I mean, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense either. I mean, she didn't start floating over the floor. Stepping quietly and lightly doesn't mean that all of a sudden all of your footprints disappear. But nobody minds because it's a game balancing issue, and as a counter, it works that you should have that, even if it's not 100% logical. And I think that's the same kind of a situation here. If the only way to counter Lion was going to be to stop moving and you had nobody that could do anything about that, then that was a bit of an issue. I mean, sure, you could say that any operator could stand within the radius of a mute jammer, but even if you were close enough to one where you could get into that area of effect, that was still a very limited space you could move around in, and you might as well have been standing still for the most part. And let's be honest, when the scan would come, most of us weren't anywhere near a jammer at the time unless we were in the objective and in the right spot. With the shorter warning duration, you're now going to have more of a chance to catch that roamer moving around. Now with Vigil having a direct counter to Lion's ability, that makes a lot more game balance sense, even if it's not 100% logical. Now, as is the case with any test server, they do always reserve the right to not push these changes to the live build. It is a testing environment, and as we saw with Capitao, for instance, they tested it out. They found that based on feedback, there were some things that they wanted to change to address some issues, and so they didn't release it. And now they're bringing them around for another set of tweaks to see how that works. So these changes may not go live as is, but they are almost always pushed to the live build eventually, and these changes to Lion may make things a little bit more interesting. But what do you guys think? Do these sound like interesting changes that you want to see come to the full game later on? Let me know down in the comments below, and if you haven't already, please do like and subscribe. Make sure you click that notification icon so you're alerted as soon as new information becomes available. You can also follow me over at IcyCat25 on either Facebook or Twitter. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.